If your employer offers a 401k match and you're not contributing enough to get every single dollar of it, you are walking away from free money. And by the end of this video, I'm going to show you exactly how much that one mistake could cost you over your lifetime. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Max Carter, and if you are new here, this is the place where we take the most complicated money topics and break them down so simply that anyone can understand them. Whether you just got your first job, whether you have been working for 20 years, or whether you are somewhere in between. No confusing financial jargon, no Wall Street nonsense, just real numbers and real strategies that actually work for real people. So if that sounds like something you need in your life, make sure you hit that subscribe button because we drop new videos every single week. Now today we are talking about something that I genuinely believe is one of the most expensive mistakes that millions of working Americans are making right now. And the crazy part is that most of them do not even know they are doing it. It is not about picking the wrong stocks. It is not about spending too much on coffee. It is something much simpler than that. And by the time this video is over, you are going to want to open your 401k account immediately. So let us get into it. The number is bigger than most people think, and once you see it, you're never going to look at your paycheck the same way again. Let's start with the basics, because a lot of people genuinely don't understand what a 401k match even is, or they signed up for their plan years ago, picked some random percentage, and never thought about it since. A 401k is a retirement account that many employers offer, where you can contribute a portion of your paycheck before taxes are taken out. But the real magic is the match. A lot of companies will match your contributions up to a certain percentage of your salary. So if your company offers what's called a 100% match up to 5%, that means for every dollar you put in, up to 5% of your salary, your employer puts in another dollar too. That's not a bonus. That's not a perk. That is literally part of your compensation that you are agreeing to give up if you don't contribute enough. Here's a real example to make this concrete. Let's say you make $60,000 a year. 5% of that is $3,000. If you contribute $3,000 to your 401k and your employer matches it dollar for dollar, they add another $3,000. So now you have $6,000 going into your retirement account for the year, but only half of it came out of your own pocket. That's an instant 100% return on your money before it's even invested in anything. There is no investment on Wall Street, no stock, no crypto, nothing that guarantees you a 100% return like that. And yet, so many people don't take advantage of it. Now let's look at what happens when someone doesn't contribute enough. Say that same person, making $60,000 a year, only contributes 2% instead of 5%. That's $1,200 instead of $3,000. Their employer only matches what they put in, so they also get $1,200 instead of $3,000. That means this person just left $1,800 of free money on the table in a single year. $1,800 that they were entitled to, that their employer was ready to give them, and they just didn't take it. Now here's where it gets interesting. Because $1,800 in 1 year doesn't sound like a life-changing amount of money. But money that's invested doesn't just sit there, it grows. And when you're talking about retirement accounts, we're talking about decades of growth. Let's say this person is 25 years old. They're planning to retire at 65, so that's 40 years of working. If they miss out on that extra $1,800 of employer match every single year for 40 years, and let's assume that money, if it had been invested, would have grown at an average annual return of about 7%, which is a pretty realistic long-term average when you look at how the stock market has performed historically, then by the time they turn 65, that missed match alone would have grown to roughly $370,000. Let that number sink in for a second. $370,000. Not from some risky investment, not from picking the right stock at the right time, just from one small percentage difference in their 401k contribution, repeated every year for their entire career. And remember, that $370,000 figure is only the employer's missed contribution. We haven't even talked about the extra money this person would have contributed themselves, or how that would have grown too. So why does this happen? Why do so many people miss out on this? A few reasons. First, a lot of people just don't know their match percentage. They got a stack of papers when they were hired, signed a bunch of forms, picked a default contribution percentage, and never looked at it again. Second, some people feel like they can't afford to contribute more, especially early in their career when money is tight. And third, some people simply forget that their contribution percentage can be changed. So even if their salary goes up over the years, their contribution percentage stays exactly the same, which means the dollar amount they're contributing barely changes relative to their income. Let's talk about that second point for a second, because I know for a lot of people watching this, the idea of contributing more to a 401k feels impossible when you're already living paycheck to paycheck, and that's a completely valid concern. But here's the thing, even small increases matter. If you can't go from 2% to 5% overnight, that's okay. Even going from 2% to 3% is progress. And here's a trick that a lot of financial advisors recommend. Every time you get a raise, instead of letting that extra money just blend into your regular spending, increase your 401k contribution by 1% at the same time. You'll barely notice the difference in your take-home pay, because you're essentially redirecting a small piece of a raise you weren't used to having anyway. But over time, those 1% increases add up significantly. Now, let's also clear up a common misconception. Some people think that money in a 401k is locked away and they can never touch it, so they avoid contributing because they're scared of emergencies. While it's true that 401k accounts are designed for retirement and typically have penalties for early withdrawal, the goal here isn't to put every spare dollar into your 401k. The goal is specifically to contribute enough to get your full employer match, because that's the part that's essentially free money. Building an emergency fund and contributing to your 401k aren't mutually exclusive, they can both be priorities, but the 401k match specifically should be near the top of that list because of how valuable it is. Let's also talk about a slightly different scenario, because not everyone starts at 25. What if you're starting later, say at 35? Using the same numbers, missing out on that $1,800 a year for 30 years instead of 40, growing at 7% annually, would still add up to roughly $170,000 by the time you're 65. Still a massive number. Just to put into perspective how powerful time and compound growth really are, the earlier you fix this, the bigger the impact. But even if you're starting later, fixing it today still matters enormously. So what should you actually do after watching this video? First, log into your 401k account or check with your HR department to find out exactly what your employer's match percentage is. Some companies match 100% up to 3%, some match 50% up to 6%. Every plan is different, so you need to know your specific numbers. Second, check what percentage you're currently contributing. If it's below your match threshold, increase it. Most 401k platforms let you change this in just a couple of clicks. Third, if increasing it all the way to the match threshold feels like too much right now, start with a smaller increase and build up over time, especially using that raise strategy I mentioned earlier. One more thing worth mentioning. Some companies have what's called a vesting schedule for their match. This means that while the money goes into your account right away, you might not fully own the employer's contribution until you've worked there for a certain number of years. This doesn't mean you should skip contributing. It just means it's worth understanding your company's specific vesting rules, especially if you're thinking about changing jobs in the near future. At the end of the day, this comes down to one simple idea. Your employer is offering you a guaranteed, no-risk return on a portion of your paycheck. And if you're not taking it, you're essentially saying no to part of your own compensation. It's not about being a financial expert. It's not about picking the perfect stocks. It's about making sure you're not leaving money on the table that's already yours for the taking. If this video helped you understand your 401k match a little better, do me a favor and hit subscribe, because I'm going to be breaking down topics just like this every single week. Real numbers, real situations, no fluff. And in the comments below, I want to know, did you know your exact employer match percentage before watching this video? And if not, are you going to go check it right now? Let's talk about it down below.